Hey everybody, Garrick Rumley here with Duty to Train. I wanted to talk with you today about why a 22 caliber pistol is a solid defensive round. I was at home recently and my sister told me that, she went shooting with my mom, and my mom has a pretty small caliber pistol. It's a 380. If you don't know that, it doesn't really matter, but it's a pretty small round and it's bigger than a 22. But, she's like, I shot that and I still I didn't like it, and it made it hard because it was everything I've been talking about in my videos, she was saying, she's like, it was like popping a lot and I'm just not comfortable shooting it. I said, okay, then all you need to do is just go down to a 22. It's like basically shooting a BB gun, which is what I told her. And she said, really? And I said, yeah, just, use a 22 and you'll feel almost no recoil, and then you can focus on the fundamentals. Problem solved, right? One of the things about pistol shooting is it's not hard. Pistol shooting is not hard, right? But if you get in over your head, or you try to advance too quickly, you take shortcuts, you just get screwed up. And getting screwed up when you're learning pistol shooting is very frustrating, because you go to the range and you see everybody else shooting well and you're not, and people are like, why are they shooting well and I can't, right? Then you don't want to go, right? Nobody wants to do something that they're not good at. And if you're not getting any better, and really, if you get a gun that's too much for you, you actually probably will get worse. Like the more you shoot, you'll get worse, because you'll actually instill bad fundamentals. So instead of doing that, get a gun that you feel comfortable with, and then you'll progressively get better, and then you could advance to higher caliber pistols. And then, down the road, if you want to get like a 380, 9mm, 45, whatever you want to get, you can get that and you can feel comfortable. So one of the best benefits of owning a 22 caliber pistol is for the low recoil. And I'm just going to act this out, but when I shoot a 9mm, which is quite a bit bigger than a 22, this is probably what it looks like roughly in my hands, right? It's going to pop just like that. A 22 is literally this small. Pop, 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 right? So when you don't have to think about the recoil and that thing blowing up in your face, instead of, as a beginner, worrying about a pistol blowing up in your hands. And when I say blowing up in your face, I don't literally mean, but that's why beginner pistol shooters lock up and get super tense, is because they see this gun and they know it's about to blow in my face, and they get all nervous. And the biggest issue that beginner shooters have is it's called recoil anticipation. And they're anticipating the recoil, they know it's coming, and they get nervous and they jerk that trigger, right? And their whole hand tenses up and they jerk it. And so it doesn't matter how much you focus on your grip and your sights. If you screw up your trigger control, it screws up everything. And the biggest issue, not the biggest issue, but one of the big issues that pistol shooters can have is they just buy a 9mm when they have no fundamentals. And instead of buying something that they're effective with, they buy something that they want to have, but once they get it, they can't shoot it accurately. And so they start getting frustrated. And instead of going to the range and training with something that they feel comfortable with and they're constantly getting better and improving with and feeling good about, they buy a pistol that frustrates them. And instead of going to the range, it ends up just sitting in their closet, in the back shelf, in a safe for the next 2 years, and you never touch it. So buy a pistol you feel comfortable with. You're going to get far better. And the other thing that you need to think about when you go to purchase a pistol is the cost of owning that pistol, right? You need to train with your pistol. It doesn't matter what type of gun you get. If you don't train with it, you're not going to be effective with it. And so the cost of owning a 22 is far less than any other caliber bullet, because 22 rounds are so inexpensive. They're a lot more expensive than they were a couple of years ago, but they're still, I think they're roughly a third or a quarter of the cost of 9mm. So if you get a 9mm, every single round that you shoot at the range, you're paying 3 times more for than if you got a 22. So I really like shooting this Glock 44 because it's the same exact size and shape as my Glock 19, which is why Glock designed it that way. It's a great training aid for people who own a Glock 19. But it also allows me to focus on the fundamentals, but it allows me to shoot the exact same gun at a third or a quarter of the cost. So if you are just getting into pistol shooting, especially if it's your first gun and you haven't gone to the range a whole lot, maybe you're tight on a budget, a 22 caliber pistol is really awesome because you can instill the fundamentals. It's still a solid defensive round, right? Putting 10 shots of 22 on target is far better than maybe getting 1 or 2 9mm if you're lucky, because when you're under a high stress situation, you're going to fall back on your training. And if you have no training, because you're frustrated with your gun, then I promise you, you're not going to hit anything with a 9mm. But if you have solid training because you are confident with your pistol and you have been going to the range because you've been having a good time and you've been progressing, right? Then having, 7 out of 10 shots on target with your 22 is better than having none with your 9mm because you never practiced with it. So think about purchasing a 22 as a beginner gun. And if you know that you are okay with a 9mm, I keep looking at my Glock 19, but if you know that you're okay with shooting a 9mm, then shoot the 9mm. Get that, and that way you can kind of just skip this step, right? It just depends on who you are as a shooter, right? And I just want to clarify one thing, that a lot of new shooters will have a hard time with recoil anticipation regardless of what caliber size bullet they have. So, a lot of people can buy a 9mm and quickly kind of train themselves out of the recoil anticipation. But if you know, just trust yourself, have a little humility here. If you know that you're going to have an issue with the recoil, 22 is your way to go. So know yourself, purchase a pistol accordingly, stay safe, live free, train a lot, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.